Back. When we talk about names, it's something that we often take for granted because we all have one, but we don't necessarily think about the names beyond perhaps the meanings thereof. But there usually are many rituals and many considerants given to how a child is named. Well, the book Jabulani Means Rejoice is a dictionary comprising of thousands of African names in local South African languages. It's meticulously assembled and expounded upon for the curious reader. Names are also listed in alphabetical order with gender indications as well as information regarding their ethnographic origins as well as meanings. And to tell us more about this book, we're joined from our Cape Town studios by the author Phumzile Simelane-Kalumba. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Sakina.
It's a fascinating subject, but let's start off with the reasons why you decided to embark on this journey of actually coming up with a dictionary of names.
Yes. Well, the journey began with giving birth to my own children. It was time when I was away from my country, South Africa, and I think that really added to appreciating the cultures we have, and it brought the proper meaning of when you name, what exactly are you doing and what are you meaning, and the significance of that practice. So that is how I began. My firstborn was born in Kampala, my husband's home, and he asked me for South African names, and he asked me to jot down just few names that I loved and the meaning thereof. So when we started that exercise, it wasn't really intended to be a book. It was just an exercise for us to name our children. But when we went into it, we realized that this is something that is an aid, is something that needs to be done. So I started with my extended family, neighborhood, people that I've known, and the meaning and the stories that were contained in such names. So that's how it all began.
So, we live in a world that is becoming smaller and smaller due to globalization, and there's a lot of assimilation taking across various aspects of our lives. And names, one finds that perhaps people will name a child not because it has a meaning or they know or understand the meaning, but because they like the sound of the name. And that brings this into perspective. But what did you find in your journey in terms of the ethnographic origins of names?
Yes, of course. That is what is happening now. It must sound nice. It must. But when you look at the traditional naming practices, they really vary with time and with the culture. And if you look at pre-colonial names, you realize that names were not just names for namesake or for the sound. It was, they were containers of history, of events. They were containers of memories. They were containers of belief systems, and they were containers of feelings of the name givers. And it was an important way to carry that message across to the future. If you look at colonial era, that's when now you get to see that that traditional way of naming is starting to get eroded, because now you have to adopt the Western kind of naming by adopting school names. The traditional names are looked upon as pagan names. You have your church name, you're baptized with a new name. So that's when the loss now began to happen of the traditional name as a carrier of history and of meaning. You move along with time, as the culture changes, the names changes as well. You look at, during apartheid era, you continue with your school names, and then afterwards, you see people saying, no, I'm reclaiming my name. It has meaning. It has significance to me. It is part of who I am. Then you move along. Later on, you 20 years later, and then the young ones, it's globalization, like you're saying, and they're saying, no, I need something that will make me relevant to the world, that will make me relevant to the social mood. So you cannot really divorce the names from the times and from the cultures and from the identity people carry at that time.
So it would, of course, be a very difficult task to have an exhaustive list of names. And inevitably, the producers around, when you have a dictionary like that, everybody's looking for their name. And Seriti is not there, Nomshato is not there, Sepati is not there. And so now people start to complain, you know, my name is not in the dictionary.
Oh, Sakina, I knew this was coming. I am guilty as charged. Work like this need to be living. It's supposed to be a living database, because you are a caretaker of people's stories, and stories happen every day. So once you have it in a book, then it means it is now, everything is written down. You are not able to daily add on to that database. So I have one or two names that are not there, as you have mentioned. I profusely apologize. And I'm hoping that we can have something where we have a living database where people can add their stories. Because even if you have a name, like my name, Phumzile, my story is different from somebody else's story who's also named Phumzile. So it would be nice to hear different stories for the people who are carrying the same names, you know, to have it living. That would be the best way to actually encapsulate all these.
So I love that you say it's, you know, a work in progress and it needs to be a living document. So we'll see more names added, because one of the other criticisms from the team was that perhaps it's much more Nguni-centered. So maybe a lot more names in that regard, yes, from other cultural perspectives as well. And also, it needs to go online, and we need help with pronunciation.
Yes.
You know, because that's one of the great difficulties with our names.
Yes. For Nguni, of course, because my father, Swati, and my mother being Zulu, I can easily access. It was easy for me to access those names. It was easy for me to, just from my own childhood, to be able to know the names and the meanings. But for the other groups, I had to do research. I had to go out and interview people, consult like the proper way of researching. So with that, you are limited in some ways. So hence, you will see that maybe Nguni has been advantaged in this book.
Well, Phumzile, thank you so much, and congratulations on a very important work. Jabulani Means Rejoice, a dictionary comprising of thousands of South African names. And as she says, it's a work in progress, so we will see updates on this. And there you have it on your screen. That is the book by Phumzile Simelane-Kalumba. And of course, we're going to go to a break. And when we last spoke to Valen, she was still up in the sky. So we're hoping that they have made their way down or are about to get there. But we'll do that after the break.
SABC News can reveal just how easy it is to buy explosives used in these robberies.
The very worrying factor is that very few arrests have been made.
Uma bazizinto ngami engingazazi mina ngazi izinto ngabo abanye abazaziyo bona ukuthi zinjani. Angifuni bazenze bahle ngegama lami.
Siya Kolisi comes out. Skipper number 61 for South Africa, the first black South African captain.
Special assignment. Crime keeps the society in terror and pain. Why so?
If someone phones me, tells me, okay, look here, he needs a server, and I get you all driving, I'll take it.
What pushes normal people